sounds out of tune. Doesn't sound great. I also don't have a monitor, so I can't hear it without a delay. So anyway, you know, technology. All right, 14 people. We're going to hang here just for a minute until people come in. But how's everybody doing? Matt! Hey, buddy. Hey! Happy Friday. It's a good week, man. What'd you guys get into this week? All right, 23 people here. One thumbs up. Welcome to Guitar Hunter Live. This is the second one. So episode 2. My kids are running around upstairs. It's finally like nice and warm. Like warm is relative. 61 today's been in the 30s all week. Hi from Belgium. Hey, buddy. How about some hillbilly music? Oh, that tremolo. Can't palm mute a floating trim, right? I also don't have a monitor, so I'm assuming it sounds good. This is my American Professional 2 Strat that Fender let me keep, which is amazing. I haven't made a video about getting to keep it. It was a really cool surprise. It's also going through a Tone Master that they also gave me. So full disclosure, it's been a good year to make YouTube videos about guitars. Ray from Lynchburg, you're close. What was that hillbilly music? Anyway, that's obnoxious. I think I can't hear. Okay, I'm going to put the guitar down. We're going to jump into some questions. A couple announcements first. Let me get my coffee going. So, well, that ties in great. I hear in this tiny French press as we smoosh it on down. So this is Brazilian roast wood. This is a custom, amazing coffee from my friends at Broad Porch Coffee. Thanks so much. This is Phil. Phil is a good friend. He's an amazing coffee roaster. So this is a custom roast that he's doing for the Guitar Hunters. And yeah, so there were 10 bags. They're already gone. This one's for my brother. Don't tell him. It's a surprise for Christmas. Actually, he might actually be paying for it. Is it a surprise or a gift if you pay for it? But there are more coming. So they're on the website. Let me go ahead and put more on the website. If you want to buy a cup of coffee, if you want to buy a bag of coffee, you can go to jeremytheguitarhunter.com/shop. And you can buy more coffee. So I'll up the quantity now. And they will ship early next week. So they went on sale on Tuesday, I believe, and they all sold within a day or two. And so if you want that, please go for it. Also, t-shirts. T-shirts have a coupon code right now. So all the t-shirts, you can get 20% off with the code Deck the Halls. All one word, DECKTHEHALLS. So Deck the Halls, boys and girls. And like that, there are more bags of coffee. So there can be up to 20. So if you want coffee, go ahead and order it. And it will get shipped as soon as you can. Like this coffee was roasted December 7th, which is amazing. And it was able to get shipped on the 8th. So it was here, it was out, it went really quick. So, all right, let me come back over here to the chat so I can see what's going on. Yeah, so let me ask you all a question first. One of the questions I have been struggling with recently is, are paid gear reviews fair, reliable, wise? Should you trust them? Just because someone else can play guitar and make it sound a certain way or a piece of gear, does that mean that you can too? What's your take on that? Think about it. And yeah, I'm doing a different setup now. So I'm running the Tone Master silent in the background. It's back here behind me. And so I can't hear it, but it's running the DI out. And yeah, so it's running straight into the interface into YouTube. What a wonderful world we live in. So paid gear reviews. It didn't start happening to me until 6 months or so ago. I started getting free stuff, unsolicited free stuff. I would have brands reach out and say, hey, we really like your channel. We'd like to send you this thing, no strings attached. So Fender sent me a chunk of pedals first. And I'm not a super pedal player, which is a carryover question from last week. But yeah, so they sent me a bunch of pedals, which I really liked. I made a video on a couple of them. But I ended up just kind of hanging on to them. I had them for 10 months or so and then just sold them over the last couple of weeks because they're just not going to live with me and live on my board. But then Fender is the best example of this. They've been really kind to my channel and they have been super nice and they're fun guys to deal with. The two main guys that I deal with from Fender. And so that's how I got the Strat. That's how I got the Tone Master. They just sent me an acoustic amp that I'm really excited about. But there are other companies that have sent me stuff and asked me to make a video on it. And when I make the video, they get grumpy and they don't like it. And they either ask for the product back. It's only happened with a couple. But it's interesting because a lot of times their justification is, well, we paid you, therefore you give us a review. You give us something that helps our business or our brand. And I just don't think that's the way it works. So I think there is an issue. And I want to have a larger conversation later about just the ethics and just the place in culture for reviews. Like I want to be a trustworthy friend that, I want to be a trustworthy friend that knows a lot about guitars and helps you make a good decision. That does get complicated when people, when brands, offer me money or offer me product, because this is my business and this is how I take care of my family. So with that said, the other strategy, other like Phil McKnight, who has become a friend, Philip talks about how, he didn't want to have sponsors on his channel, or he doesn't want to have, he doesn't want to feel beholden to certain brands. And so one of the ways he's gotten around that is that he has Patreon where, for the $3 a month, you get, he just has lots of people kind of at the $3 per month range, which I think is great. I want to be careful asking people for money. It feels tacky. So working on that. All right. Okay. Let me jump in here. It does influence my purchase decision. Yeah. Yeah. So, it all depends, right? Because there are demos on Guitar Gear. Like this is just how this thing sounds, which is helpful to me, but usually they're using a different guitar and different cables and a different amp and different pedals. And like, I may have the one piece in common, but everything else about the situation isn't the same. And so with that, you just have to take that with a grain of sand. But I think you're totally onto something with it is the reputation and it's the integrity of the individual buyer themselves. And that's how I feel. I'm a super relational person. So when I feel close to the marketing director or whomever I'm talking to and have a relationship with, I want to do that. Now I have felt in myself, sometimes I feel like I'm maybe nicer than I should be or whatever, or I don't go on them as hard as if I would, as if I was playing that piece of gear or looking at it on Craigslist or, trying it out for the first time. Anyway, there's a lot to be said about that. So Matt, what did you say? Matt said, in a post-COVID world, gear demos feel more valuable than ever. That's super true. Because if you can't go to a guitar shop, if you can't just, check stuff out in person, you have to trust a friend or someone. You have to trust the person showing you that gear. That is super true. Yeah, literally the guitar shop in my hometown exploded. Like it blew up. It is gone. They're opening a new one down the road. But I have been without a guitar shop for a while. So you just have to kind of know what stuff is sight unseen or not being able to play it. I sold a guitar today. I sold the Favilla, the F6. I sold it to a local singer-songwriter here. Now, there's a chance they might not actually keep it. They're trying it for the weekend. They still paid me. But it, yeah, it felt a little bit like a guitar shop where I met the guy and he played it for so long. He played it for like 20 minutes, just like noodling, just trying everything he could. And maybe he was in his head a bit because we were filming as well, which I get in my head and I all of a sudden feel like a game show host. And I'm like, your energy is 150% and you don't feel like a real person. So maybe that's what happened with this guy and he just kind of got in his head. But he tried this guitar forever. But I sold the Favilla, but it's that same kind of thing. Like, it's weird. We met outside. It was, 60 degrees or so, but we're in the shade. So the guitar's not staying in tune. But anyway. Hi, price and link. Jeremy the Guitar Hunter coffee is, I'll put a link in the chat. So it is jeremytheguitarhunter.com/shop/Brazilian-Rosewood. I'll put that in the chat right now so that y'all have it. There's the link for the coffee. Go ahead and buy those if you want. One of the things, it's a problem, but I didn't actually fix it, which is the shipping is $3, which it actually cost me about $4.50 to $5 to ship it. I'm fine. I'll, whatever. I cover that. But if you get multiple, it still only charges you $3, which that's fine. It's not a $5 increase, or it's not like a double in shipping price, but it is a little more. But if you want more than one, have at it. I mean, at the same time, it's a limited run. But I think the most anybody's bought is 2 bags. But the same thing is true with shirts. You kind of combine shipping. So anyway, yes. Okay. So Christopher Peters, you have like the perfect example of like when people give raving reviews to shit guitars, it's not only unethical, but it's just reckless. So let me get this cable out of the way. So Donner, this company, it's a Chinese company. They started out making pedals and now they sell the cheapest of cheap guitars. They sent me 2 guitars. They didn't even ask for them. They just sent them to me. They showed up at my P.O. box. And then when I emailed them and said, hey, I got these 2 guitars, they said, well, you can have them. You can look at them. If you like them, you can make a video and we'll pay you for it. If you don't like them, you can throw them away, which was the actual words that they used. Maybe there's a breakdown in English to Chinese, but it also feels like if you're just telling me to throw something away, that maybe shows what they view it as a consumable or disposable product rather than kind of a commodity. I failed economics twice, so I don't really know what those titles are. Yes. So, okay. So that's your point. An honest reviewer, appreciate the gear review, but if it's a paid review, hard pass. So paid reviews are tricky, man. Yeah, cause I'm torn on the part of like, well, I'm in business, but the main product I make, I give away for free, which I'm fine. I'm a very generous person. So that makes total sense to give my videos away for free. I've launched other things that help. And if you want to take a deeper dive, and this is not a plug for my own thing, but in the shop, another thing you'll see is the buyer's guide, which launched last week. The buyer's guide is helpful advice to find the perfect guitar for you. It'll teach you how to find the value of guitars, what strategies on how to buy it, how to figure out what price it is, some negotiation tricks. It's really helpful. But all that to say, yeah. Richard Froman. You bought that leather strap. Man, you got that big squishy one? That super like honky tonk one? That's very cool. That is my favorite part of guitar culture, is like case candy and like quirky. I wish more people had cool straps. That is my favorite of favorite things. Okay, I'm going to catch up on these and then we're going to jump into some Instagram questions because there are just some bangers, just great questions that came in that I'm excited, and a couple funny stories. It wouldn't feel tacky if you're helping the guitar community to ask from. Thank you. That's sweet. We as the guitar community should want to subscribe. Yeah. I mean, the most helpful way, and I'm reworking my Patreon. I mean, Patreon is the most reliable and consistent way for me as a creator to know that I've got some of the bases covered. So I make profit. And this is maybe more than I have shared before. How do I make money as a YouTuber? So when I make money through AdSense, I make money through affiliate links. I make money through buying and selling guitars. That's kind of on the separate side. And then I also make money through selling merch. And so and then Patreon is in there too. So it's kind of, a multitude of different ways, which is good that it's diversified and not all 5 of them ever go all down at the same time. But anyway, I'm going to move this out of the way so it looks better. Yeah. Listen to YouTubers all day. Helena, Montana. It's snowing. Tex. Hey, buddy. Yeah, man, I love Helena. I drove through Helena in a blizzard in 2007, maybe. I had a friend that got in some trouble in Lake Tahoe, and he called me and said, "Hey, can you fly to the West Coast and just get in with me and drive back home? Help me haul my trailer back home." And we came in. We literally got stuck in a blizzard the whole way across the country. But it was super fun. Let me open my phone, get to those questions. I'm not trying to promote Orangewood, but you look at the positive reviews and take away. So I'm getting another Orangewood. It should be here next week. It's the Hudson, so it's their top of the line ish, torrefied Sitka spruce top, and then torrefied mahogany back and sides. And we're gonna hold it up against some Martins. We're gonna talk about whether what is torrefaction. One video, and then the other one is, can you fake it? Like, are there cheat codes for these guitars? All right, let me jump over here. All right, on Instagram, questions. All right, my number one question is, do I teach guitar? I don't teach guitar. It is not a fulfilling thing for me when I'll put this over here. Shameless product placement. Let's get it in the light. I don't teach guitar because it's not super enjoyable to me. I will give people tips and pointers and tricks. I have a really specific style, both probably more in my acoustic guitar playing. I have a very specific style that I do like sharing. I love dadgad. I play in dadgad all the time. So I don't teach lessons. Occasionally I teach pointers. Is that something you would be interested in? What I'm not interested in is teaching people the basics of guitar playing. But if you've been playing for a while and you just want like the friend hangout, show me some of the things you know how to do, I would do that a lot. I would be really interested in teaching some of the dadgad tricks that I have. So my style is like either dadgad or ambient or melodic finger style. So that's kind of my niche. So my next question: what is my favorite capo? And the question, and then Elliot. Like, is it Elliot? My favorite capos. I love Elliot capos, but similar to Blue Chip, they are just so expensive. It's hard for me to justify having one. I bought one used. I found one at a flea market in Louisiana a couple of years ago. I bought it for $85 used, and I had it for a while, and I almost lost it. Like, I left it on the music stand at church, and I had to go back the next day and get it, and I freaked out, and I was like, I can't leave an $85 capo. I sold it. I think I sold it for $125. It had the leather pouch. As far as quality and provenance and feeling like there is no better tool, the Elliot capo is really wonderful. And you definitely, it's a really great one. Now behind that, if I had my pick, okay, I don't have any down here, but if I had my pick, my favorite capo that I use a lot is the Paige capo, because it's a very similar style. I like that it's just even pressure straight behind the neck, and it's one flat bar. Feels like it's pulling more evenly. I've had Kaiser capos forever, like this capo. Let me grab this one. Can you hear this? I bought this capo when I was 14 years old. I've had it ever since. It was black. I spray painted it blue and silver, blue and white, like blue all over, and then kind of speckly, like back the can off. I like this capo, but it's all torn up. It's super squeaky, and I mean, Kaiser to me, it squishes so hard on the bass side. And this one particularly, it's got kind of a wiggle in it now. Like it's not flat or it's not even curved. But that capo, I have a ton of nostalgia tied to it, but it pulls the bass string so hard that they're out of tune. And then usually the B and the E string buzz a little bit unless I tweak and monkey with it. I also like that I don't have to take it off. I had this capo mess up the finish on my, it was a 61 J50 that I had for almost 10 years. And it messed up the finish. It like squeezed and left a line in the finish. So I prefer the Paige or the Elliott. I mean, they're the same kind of style. I just roll it up over the nut or a little past the nut over the strings, tighten it down. It's out of the way. It doesn't mess with tuning. It's there. It's easy breezy. The only time it's a problem is trying to hang it up on hanging like string swings or guitar stands if you hang your guitars. So, hey, Colin, Bruno, Simon, Simone, Simon. I'm overthinking this. So many questions. Yes, coffee link. I'll put the coffee link in again. It also is whole bean. If you need it ground, get a grinder. I can't grind it. Anyway, it's whole bean coffee. It's delicious. Brazilian rosewood. Nope, that's the joke. It's a Brazilian roast, and it is hand roasted in Luray, Virginia. It's my friend Phil. The plan is to go over and film a video, but COVID not being close to each other. So anyway, Colin asked what I think about the 0015M. I love those guitars. My favorite things about those guitars are just the style, the mojo, the fit, the mahogany. It's a very light guitar. It's like shockingly light. But it also, with it, there are a few downsides. The satin finish. Once you've had it for a while, especially if you like, depends on the sweat of your, like how your body sweats. But overall, it can be tricky. And so it anyway, it can wear to a shiny finish in a weird place. But that's the whole thing, man. Like guitars grow with you, and those just because of the satin finish, they tend to look like used guitars faster. But lean in, dig into it. They're great guitars. Colin, you live in Luray. That's where this coffee. So this coffee's at Hawksbill, right downtown in Luray, next to Page 1. So some people call it Luray. Some people that are around here call it Luray. Like in high school, the cheerleaders yell "Hooray for Luray!" Anyway, have you ever played a Rickenbacker acoustic? I have not. That's crazy. I didn't even know such a thing. Yeah, I love I like some Rickenbackers. Like the 360s. Those are super fun. I just don't ever see them. I wish I saw more of them. So do I teach guitar? Covered that. What's my favorite capo? What do I use to clean hands from sticky, or what do I use to clean kids' sticky fingerprints off of my guitars? Big problem here. It's a big problem here as well. Every guitar that I own, like the bottom bout, is going to have lots of smacks and little kid handprints on them. I wear them a bit like a badge of honor. Like I love it. I love that my kids feel that they're around music, that they're around guitars, that they feel comfortable with me, that they know that I'll lean in and play songs for them. And so anyway, it's a good problem to have. I use the Ernie Ball. It's over here. I forget the Ernie Ball guitar cleaner. I also just got, I guess it's Jim Dunlop, the limb oil. But for the finish, just a regular guitar polish and then a microfiber cloth. Any of those should be good. Yeah, that's a good problem to have. Okay. So what are my thoughts on gigging out with expensive gear rather than affordable gear, playing in bars, playing in churches, that kind of thing? And so the example is like a Gibson custom shop. I think it's up to you. That's the best part. I mean, like you get to pick like whichever guitar helps you be the best musician. That's good. So, I mean, that could be a custom shop. That could be a real high-end guitar. But at the same time, I mean, sometimes it's like showing up to a I don't know, like I abandoned that example. But it all depends on which guitar will make you feel more comfortable. Like coming in like the guy that you're playing with has an Epiphone Dot and a Blues Junior, and you show up with a high watt and a Les Paul custom, like a custom shop, like if you're outpowering your band, if you're overshadowing, most people are never going to pay attention. Most people that come to a bar for music, they are not like, ooh, is that an NOS? Is that a closet classic? They're not into it to the level that we are. And as long as it sounds good and looks good, they're into it. It does seem like you're opening yourself up to a ton of risk. There is a very real possibility that your stuff can get stolen or damaged at a lot of shows. Like especially if you come in, you do sound check and you put your guitar in the van, and then you go somewhere, you're having dinner, and then the van gets broken into. I mean, it's just happened a ton. I don't have any real issue with it. I've always just played the guitars that I like best and make me the best musician. Very often those are Martin standards, those are above $2,000 guitars. So I wouldn't stress out too much about it. Richard, I'm so glad you asked that. That's one of my favorite questions. I've been wanting to make a video, but I don't know how to do it for copyright reasons. But I love when like you go to a concert and like my wife always knows that I'm like trying to figure out what guitars people are playing. And like I especially when I'm like craning my neck to see like, is that an SG custom or is that, like I'm trying to look at their pedals. Yes. So you're not alone. I definitely do some gear peeping and try and figure out what people have, especially the only times it's really not appropriate is when you're like at church probably, or like whatever religious service you're at. That's not the moment that you should be like, I think that's an NOS finish. I think you should just be in the moment. McDowell County Young Life. Advice on upgrading a pickup for a Martin X Series Triple O spruce top. Just play it at local events or open mics. Two pickups that are like super easy to find and sound really good. The LR Bag's Element. It's a very simple. You can get the bone stock Element that's just a volume control. I think they sell one even without a volume. But it's like 120, couple bucks. And then usually it should be no more than 50 or so to put it in. Or the VTC, which is like 10 bucks or 20 bucks more. That's a volume tone control. I don't think you really need either of those. Or you can do a K&K. K&K is a little trickier to put in because it involves super gluing 3 little piezo pickups to the underside of the bridge. But overall, I mean, that guitar, the K&K is awesome because it doesn't take a battery. And so it's like, it just works. You don't ever have to worry about changing a battery. So maybe I'll give you 3 easy choices. The K&K Pure Mini is good. Doesn't have a battery, but can be a little noisy. It can be a little woofy because it works more like a microphone in your guitar. The next one behind that, you would go to the LR Bag's Element. Should be 130, 140 bucks. And then, installation on top of that. The other one is the Fishman Matrix or whatever the newest Fishman, their Element pickup that just goes under the saddle. Upsides on those, they're like dead on reliable. They will always work. The downside is that they sound a little quacky, a little ice picky, but especially if you're like playing Young Life clubs, like that's my background too. When you're playing into like a PA system, or if you ever play at camp, like a bigger sound system, they fill in, they give you a lot of low end, that kind of pickup. So it's very good if you're a rhythmic player. That's an advantage of like the Element and the Fishman would both be a little better at that rather than the K&K. K&K sounds like a mic, sounds like your actual guitar. The LR Bag's Anthem is insane. The Anthem SL is really good. All right. Simon says, Kent, you're in Kent in 23 miles. I didn't know it's that close. 23 miles from France. Jeremy, Blue Ridge, any thoughts? Love your work. Cheers, Geezer. Blue Ridge guitars are really great. Construction wise and like how they're put together, they sound really good. The 2 issues that people tend to have with them is that they have really thick finishes And then the other part is they have kind of gaudy headstocks, so they just do a lot of inlay. And so there's no like subtlety or nuance to it. But if you lean into it, like the BR70 looks like a Martin D41, and then it's got a super blinged out headstock. It looks pretty cool. Like for me, I'm like, if you're gonna be into it, be really into it. I like those a lot. Jeff, love the video buying the guitar from the kid and his grandpa and selling it and fixing it and returning it. Man, that was an amazing experience. And Joshua has become a really good friend. He texts me all the time. His channel just hit 1,000 subscribers. He's just such a little firecracker. And he's a sweet dude, and he's really amazingly talented, great singer. That whole experience is just really humbling to be a part of. Because I bought it, and we were talking the other day, and I still like, I don't know. I'll give the very brief summary because I feel like most people have seen this. I bought a guitar from a grandpa and a grandson for $37.50. It was a 1967 Martin D28. It was all original. Raymond, the grandpa, was the original owner. His grandson is kind of this virtuoso young guitar player, mandolin player, singer, just all around firecracker. They wanted to sell the guitar because he has 3 grandkids and 2 of them play guitar, and it's too expensive of a guitar, and just money was tight, so it made more sense for them to sell it. So they sold it. One of the main reasons they sold it was so that Joshua could get his piece of it, use that, and then some hard work to buy a Martin D35 from his pastor. So he was able to do that. I bought it, and within a few weeks, 1,000 people wanted to buy that guitar for me. But Mike Quibble ended up buying the guitar for me, but with very specific, like the original plan was he wants to buy it to make sure that if Joshua ever wants it back, he can get it back. Then that snowballed into, I'm going to buy it and fix it, and then I'll come and hang out with them, and they'll be able to see the guitar. And then that snowballed into, I'm just going to give them the guitar, and whenever Raymond can't play anymore, he can just, the family can just give it back. That snowballed into, let's just give them the guitar and just let it be back in their family. Let this be a blessing to them, and just put good into the world, into the universe. And so it was amazing. So I got to kind of play second fiddle to all of that. It was an amazingly generous thing. So if you haven't seen the video, go check them out. They're very cool. Okay. So questions I get asked all of the time. Yeah, Richard, can't help but check out guitars at church. I get it. And it depends on what kind of church you go to. Like for a long time, I went to churches where it's just like, oh, it's the same 1979 Alvarez 12-string. But then you go to other churches and you're like, holy cow, that's a freaking McPherson. Like, how does that high school kid have a $7,000 guitar? Anyway, hey. As a guitar hunter, have you ever seen, let's see, as a guitar hunter, have you ever seen that one same piece of gear make its rounds around the local gear scene? Yes. I had a video about this. I had a video about a Princeton that I kept seeing. What was it? It was a Princeton that had a reverb unit added. So it was a black face. No, it was a silver face drip edge, a 68. It was a 68 Princeton. I've seen this from when I was in high school all the way through. I kept seeing it bounce around, and it came up for sale. And when I had it, the original owner finally was like, I have to own this. So he called me and just said, I will pay whatever it takes. My brother built this. He died a couple of years ago. Like, I just want this amp back. So basically it was a 68 Princeton, had a swapped Weber speaker. And then it also, Weber? Maybe in a different speaker. There's a video, I think it's called I Reluctantly Sold My Princeton. But then it has a 60s blackface Fender reverb unit was kind of married into it. So it's like the power supply splits off, and it's technically like the amp, and then the amp runs into the reverb circuit and then out to the speaker. But it's all internal. You'd never know it unless you took it apart and saw it. So yes, so that was a weird kind of piece of gear that just kind of hung around the local area for a long time. That's a great question. Thoughts on Taylors? I love Taylor guitars. I don't see them very often, but I really like Taylor guitars. I just bought this one last week. So I really love Taylor guitars. One of the things I love about them is their philosophy. And that's what's so interesting. Like Martin and Taylor have totally different philosophies on guitar. So Martin is like tradition and provenance, and we've built the most important guitars ever. We are keeping alive this old world understanding of what a great guitar is. So we're going to reissue a 60, we'll reissue a 39 D18. We'll reissue a 37 D28. I love that Taylor's philosophy is totally different, which is we've made great guitars, but the best guitars are still in front of us. So we're going to try new bracing. We're going to use new materials. We're going to try woods that have never been used. To me, it's a very compelling philosophy behind guitars, and I really like it. So anyway, I'm a big fan of Taylor guitars. Now, I don't buy many of them because I just don't see many of them. And that's partially like I was in the guitar selling business in the 2000s and early 2010s. And during that time, I did my best to tell people that they should not buy Taylors and they should buy Martins, because we were Martin dealer. We were Blue Ridge dealer. So yeah, I talked people out of a lot of Taylors, but Taylors are really great guitars. They're made for totally different players and totally different people. So anyway, I'm a big fan of Taylors. I like them a lot. Entry-level Martins. So entry-level Martins and entry-level Taylors are both made in Mexico. So this is a 214. This is made in Mexico. The X series, the Road series, the 10. And I haven't played the 13 series. Anything below the 15 series for Martin is okay to me. Some are better than others. I'm not a fan of the X series. I just don't like the high pressure laminate. Or I think it's mostly just the aesthetic of an unbound top with the high pressure laminate back and sides where you can see the grain. It's just very susceptible to dings and dents and all that stuff. All right. There are a couple other questions that I love and I really want to get to. What guitar tones am I still chasing from guitarists in high school days? What tone am I still chasing from guitarists that I idolized in my high school days? I am still chasing Tom DeLonge's punk rock Blink-182 tone. Like that is one of my favorite. That super mid, bitey, tight but not overly distorted, compressed. All of that, like the height of Blink-182. Maybe a little before that, like Dude Ranch into What's My Age Again, like that early kind of cheesy pop punk, or Sum 41. Like I love pop punk, so I'm still chasing like guilty pleasure. So that's like my PV over here, man. When I get a couple minutes and like my kids are out in the yard and I can crank up this PV Classic 20, I will push the mids, push the gain, get it super loud, and then just chug away. Other tones that I am like constantly chasing is one of my favorite acoustic guitar tones. There are two. One is Neil Young's D45 for like Needle and the Damage Done. A lot of live, like Hey Hey My. Is that song? I always get that title wrong. But all of those, that's just right. That's just right down the middle for me. Like big, jangly, powerful Martin Dreadnought. It's still like my dream guitar is a D45. I'd also be happy with a D41. Other guitar tones that I'm still chasing and love is Drive-By Truckers, Where the Devil Don't Stay. That it's a mini hum. It was the guy was playing an Epiphone with mini hums. Was it a Rivera? It was something like that. Mini hums in the bridge position, tuned down a full step, and it had this amazing like. Sorry, that's a little out of tune. But that's still a tone that I'm chasing, and I love. So that's kind of three, like a very humbucker sound, a very acoustic guitar sound, and then a very single coil telly kind of sound. Dude, yeah, that, man, Miami Blue. Everything about that. Like, I'm so thankful. I mean, I can't believe that I got a guitar for free, and I got that one. I got to pick that color. It's just so cool. Yeah. What? EQ'd plumes into the 1981 drive into a Princeton has been the best pop punk tone I've gotten. Send me a video. I'm in. That's like, I want to get like one of the Mesa, the Express 25s, or I want to get a small Mesa head that I can do some like dual rec kind of like pop punky tones. That's definitely like on my list of tones to try. So Eastman Guitars, I get asked this every week, all the time. If you want me to, if you know of a dealer that has a bunch of Eastmans and we could work out a deal that I could try them and get acquainted with their line, I've reached out to Eastman and they've just said, hey, thanks, we're not actually interested. Let us know how your channel grows, which, that's fine. But so I've tried Eastman's. There's no dealers around me. There's one in Charlottesville, but the world's still a bit weird with lockdown and COVID, and Virginia is rightfully, being very cautious. So, okay, so we talked about this earlier. So one of the other questions that came in on Instagram was testing guitars out in person is off the table. What do you look for in an online listing, and questions to ask? Actually, we didn't cover this. I thought this question was going in a different direction. So if you are buying guitars online, the first thing you need to do is look for everything that could be wrong with this piece of gear. So you need to really dig into, like, are there any finish cracks? Are there any dings? Are there any dents? And so Reverb's thing is, if you get it, it's protected as long as you get it and it is not as described. And so that works in your favor as a buyer. Because if people are just saying, like, it's in great condition, and they don't go through each thing, if they look at it and say everything that they could think of, if it's not in the description, it's usually grounds for a return. But I would look for good pictures, look for cracks, ask a bunch of questions if you can. Ask if they're the first owner, if they have service records, or if it's new. If it's new, you have way more protection. And just the condition, I mean, it will be new. It won't be beat up and dinged and dropped and used and left on the trampoline at a sleepover overnight or whatever. That's a great question. Any experience with Furch guitars? I do not. I may have played one. I think Bo Ailman at Carter, I think he had me play a Furch at Carter Vintage a year ago. I'll have to look through some pictures and video and remind myself if I've played one. I've heard lots of people that I really like and trust have played them. K-Cycle says, do I need an inexpensive 12-string? If so, which one? 12 strings are fun. Like, they're really good, but bad 12 strings are like, it's like playing an out-of-tune piano. Like, everything feels like a saloon, and sooner or later you're going to get shot. So the Orangewood, so what's his name? Samurai Guitarist has an Orangewood 12-string, and it sounds great. 12 strings are super fun, especially if you love like 12 strings and open tunings or like 60s folky stuff. They're very cool. So I wouldn't get like a cheap one. Like, I wouldn't get like a Fender CD60. I would aim for one that's like $300 or $400, or like, if it's an Orangewood, if it's $200, 20% cheaper. I would check them out. That's a good question. Maybe I'll see if I can get a 12-string from Orangewood. I love 12 strings. There are two that I wish that I would have kept. One was a 71 Martin D3512, D1235S. So slot headstock, 12 string, 12 fret, Brazilian rosewood board and bridge. And then East Indian rosewood back and sides with a Brazilian rosewood wedge. It was an incredibly cool guitar, and some numbnuts bought it on Reverb and said that it was terrible and blah, blah, blah. And anyway, that was one of the guitars that Reverb screwed me over, and I just should have kept the guitar because it was just such a great one. What are my thoughts on Breedlove guitars? I adore American-made high-end Breedlove guitars. Their Atlas series, was it Atlas? Global? What's their series? They're like $1,500-$1,600. They're made in Indonesia or Korea. So their import acoustics are good. They're not my style. What is the? So I have a friend in Louisiana. Well, he's in Minnesota now, but I have a friend who is really into Breedloves, and he had the Shane Everett, the same one that Shane Everett from Shane and Shane used for a long time. It's like a D25, I think it was called. Brazilian roses back inside, cedar top. That's an amazing, if you want like the bassiest, fullest dreadnought I've ever heard and ever played, it's one of those. It's an amazing, those are great guitars. I love the zigzag bridges. I love the weird back and sides. I love the crazy headstocks. I mean, everything about them. I feel like they're such a cool, quirky, like say no to tradition, do cool new stuff. So I love Breedloves for the most part. Got an 81 Gibson Dove and some mahogany burst, and I can hardly find. So Jackson says he has an 81 Gibson Dove, and it's a mahogany burst, and he can't find hardly any like it, and don't know what color they did in small numbers of. That is the story of Gibson in the late 70s to the late 80s, especially in their acoustic. They just did weird stuff all the time, and it was like totally mismatched and weird, and the history is really vague. Some of the resources that are helpful are like the Vintage Guitar Guide. They'll give you some context on what colors, but even then, no one has a great thumb on the pulse of what happened during that time. But as long as yours, if it's the silver label, if it's single X braced, it should sound a lot better. A lot of them in the 70s into the early 80s were double X braced, and they sounded like just shoe boxes. So anyway, that's one for sure. Ever been sent the wrong guitar? No, I wish. I'm about to have two Eastman T484s, 339 style. After I got sent the wrong one and have some. Wow. No, I don't think I've ever. I think I've mailed the wrong things to the wrong people. I think I've mailed when I was selling a ton of pedals a couple of years ago. I think I sent like a drive pedal to somebody and a delay pedal to somebody else. Matt just grabbed a Fender CC60 as a couch guitar for $120. I'm actually super stoked on it. That's a great guitar. Yeah, they're fun little guitars. They're really comfortable. You should love that. Have you ever tried the Anthem from LR Bags? I have. I love the Anthem. I have an Anthem kit over here that they sent me. I was gonna put it in my octave mandolin, but it doesn't fit. The preamp is too big to fit inside the sound hole. And so I got to figure out what to do with that. I'll probably just put it in a different guitar. There's a chance I might put it in my Waterloo, but I'm hesitant because I don't know if I want to put that much mass because it's that big preamp on the soundboard and it's that the mic and the element under the saddle and under the bridge plate. So might hold off. Might put a K&K in that one. Eric Comer. Eric. Yes, of course you have a Fishman in your Breedlove or in your Blue Ridge BR140. It's gotten noisy. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think if you want to, so Eric, old friend, went to high school together. So Eric, we're in the same town. I'll text you after this. But the LR Bags Element VTC would be the most like pound for pound, like comparable to what you have. But if you want something that sounds a little more like your guitar itself, you could do the LR Bags Lyric. That's a little condenser mic inside. My Husson Dalton has that. You can try that and see if you like that. But it can be a little feedbacky. Doesn't have that traditional like 90s acoustic guitar that has been electrified, that little quacky kind of sound. If you're used to that kind of pushed PA sound. But yeah, if your goal is to, what is the pickup that sounds the most like my guitar? I think the Ellerbags Lyric or the Anthem, the K&K does a really good job with that. There are a bunch of choices. I don't love Fishman, and I know that like when I worked at Guitar and Amp, we did a lot with Fishman, but I prefer, yeah. All right, let me jump into there was some story I wanted to tell. Oh, this is the story I wanted to tell. Do I have any horror stories of lending gear to people or borrowing gear from other people? I have one story of each. One of them I still am embarrassed by and feel terrible for. In high school, my friend Nick, he played in this band called Aggro Crag, and he just had such cool guitar gear, like always had cool SGs. And he had an original 100-watt JCM 800, like an early 80s model. And he was so kind to me when I said, like, hey, can I just borrow that for a weekend and play with it? And so I took it to my house and I was playing with it and I set it up on my cabinet. I don't even know how it happened, but somehow I knocked it all the way off of the cabinet onto a concrete floor, but it fell backwards I was running it as a full stack, as one would if you were 17 and had a Marshall, like a big Marshall head. So it had two power jacks, or it had two speaker cords in it, and it had the power cable coming out. On the front, it had a 1/4-inch jack. So basically, as it fell backwards, both of the speaker jacks went into the body, and then the 1/4-inch cable broke off the input jack. And the power cable broke. So all of a sudden there's like 4 things very, very broken on this. It also broke 2 of the power tubes. I felt awful. It was super embarrassing and I just couldn't believe how it happened or what happened or how in the world am I ever going to get this fixed. I knew that Nick, they were about to play more shows because they were playing all the time. So it was just like, holy shit, I have to get this fixed so fast. So I took it to one of the repair people in town, and he was super busy and had no time to fix it. So I ended up having to go to Waynesboro, to this other town over from us. And I took it to him, and I had him. The plan was for him to fix it. And while it was there, that music shop ended up flooding because it's like pretty close to the river. And there was like a couple days, it was a hurricane. I couldn't even, their phone lines were cut off. No one had power. So I didn't know if this thing was just ruined forever, because a lot of stuff, they would just set it on the floor. And so it was like 2 weeks of silence where I was like, this thing is just dead and gone. And I'm going to have to sell my car to pay Nick back for this JCM 800 that is super broken and is totally my fault and now is flooded. And very, very thankfully, like, amazing news came and said, hey, it was actually on the workbench. It's totally fine. We just finished repairing it before all this happened. It is good to go. Now, it was still like a $300 repair because it was new tubes, bias the tubes or bias the amp, fix the jacks, fix the thing. So it was still quite an expensive thing. But that's my worst experience ever, like borrowing gear from people. And so that's why, like, I don't borrow gear. I'm very reluctant to. It's different now. Like I'm much more responsible and know what I should and shouldn't do. And back then I just should have known what I should and shouldn't do. But yeah, so anyway, it worked out. It was great. The other one was a couple of years ago. I let a friend of mine borrow one of my guitars. So I was going to be playing mandolin and he was going to play guitar. He needed a guitar with a pickup. So I had my D28 a couple of years ago. And so he's playing my D28, the reimagined, like very minty, clean guitar. I'm standing next to him playing mandolin, and then we're other people playing at church. And during this like kind of rhythmic part of one of the songs, he like starts like smacking on the guitar, like on the top of the guitar. And he wears a big ring, and I could hear like that percussive hit of a ring hitting, soft Sitka spruce and a lacquer finish. And I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, what? And I looked and like I saw there were 3 dings that were on the top of the guitar that weren't there and were definitely from his ring. And he's like, "What is it?" I was like, "Man, like you can't just hit a guitar like that. Like that's a really expensive guitar." He's like, "How expensive can it be? Like $500?" I was like, "No, man, like that's like a $2,800 guitar." And he was like, "Oh my God, why would you let me borrow that?" And then he tried to put it on me. Like I'm the jerk for letting him borrow such a nice guitar. So anyway, so both of those stories coming and going. I have not had great gear that I've borrowed, and it's not as great for me to let other people borrow stuff. So that's where I kind of stay away from them. Yeah. Okie doke. Let me check up. Oh, the band name, Aggro Crag. You should, yeah. I have a video. It's like support your scene. It's their like reunion show. They were such a fun band. Like every show was a different costume, and like over 15 years that they were a band. They were kind of like Green Jelly or Guar-ish, like kind of just like absurd and ridiculous and funny. There's something about Virginia bands and like in the hardcore scene that kind of have that ethos of like playfulness and silliness. Very cool. Carmen, you love my videos. Thank you. And you visit the Shenandoah Valley. Thunderbird Diner. Yeah, that's out there. Not too far. So what do I do for a living? So YouTube is most of what I do. YouTube guitars and buying YouTube guitars, like this whole world of making videos and then kind of buying and selling guitars attached to the videos. The other work that I do is so my background is in marketing and sales. So I serve as a fractional, I serve as a fractional CMO for one company. So I check in a couple of times throughout the week. I make sure that the marketing plan is working. I hold all of our metrics and interactions, to the criteria of what we want to do. So I do marketing. I also do photography on the side. So I do family portraits and landscape photos, and all that grew out of just having a camera for YouTube. But anyway, that's my general, it's mostly YouTube videos and then marketing and some photography. Daniel asked what I think about the Positive Grid Spark practice amp. I haven't played the new one. Someone from their team reached out and asked if I would want one, and I think I said yes, but it just went cold. I haven't thought about it in a couple months. I feel like I would like that kind of amp. If I'm going to sit around and play guitar, I'm usually going to play acoustic guitar because I just like the physics of an acoustic guitar. I like you take metal and you take wood, and it somehow like makes this like beautiful thing to be in the same room as. So I really like acoustic guitars. I had the Yamaha THR. I've had 2 versions of that, and I think those are such fun, great little amps. So to me, I'm like, that makes total sense. So I feel like the Spark would be very similar. Yep. So, someone else asked, what time is it? Oh, it's about quitting time, boys and girls. Okay. Let's end on this. This is a good question. So one of the questions was, what is a piece of gear that got away? Like, what's the one that got away for me? There are 2, there are always, I won't just tell one. There are 2. There's one guitar that I'm like, I shouldn't have sold that. Like I didn't need to sell it. I don't know why I did. So it was a couple years ago. It was, I bought it actually on my wife on our anniversary on Christmas. On our anniversary, we're like at the beach and I find this guy that has a guitar and we buy it. And so it's a Martin OM18V. So it had this like giant V neck, had super curly mahogany neck, had very cool curly mahogany back and sides, good yellow spruce top, ebony bridge, ebony fingerboard. And I bought it for $1,500. I think I sold it for $1,900. But it was just one of those, like, I just sold it because I thought that's what I should do. I owned it outright. I didn't have it, like, it didn't come from savings. It was just guitar money. So that was just, me letting the pace of life get too fast. And so I sold that one and I missed that guitar. It's a great, really wonderful guitar. OMs are wonderful. Mahogany back and sides are wonderful. Older mahogany, especially curlier stuff, is very cool and pretty. So that's one that I missed. The other one was a guitar that I didn't actually own, but I was about to own it. So it was a guitar that it was a Stelling guitar. So this is one of the precursors to Huss and Dalton. So Jeff Huss made this guitar working with Stelling when he was still with Stelling making banjos. So he was making a few guitars. So it was a D42, so very similar to a Martin kind of guitar. So had snowflake inlay, tons of inlays, Sitka spruce top, East Indian rosewood back and sides, beautiful neck, just an amazing, wonderful guitar. We had it at the Guitar and Amp Center, and it was for sale for like $1,500, like crazy. And so a guy came in and he had this proposed trade, and so he left a couple things, and he was just going to take it for the weekend and see if he wanted it. And he said, I don't know if I actually want it. So I was so sure that guitar was going to be back on Monday morning and that I could buy that guitar. And so he took it, and while he had it, somebody broke into his house. Well, somehow he was gone one of the evenings, and they broke into his house and they stole every guitar in his house. And it felt a little fishy. We never got to the bottom of it, but that guitar is just gone. And I've set up notices for it everywhere. That's a guitar that I would love to own again. And it literally just walked out. It's just gone. So that's a guitar that I really miss. So anyway, this has been super fun. Let me check through here. Yes, I've played a Milkman amp, and they totally live up to the hype. They are if you love quirky old Fender amps, they are wonderful. I mean, Tone Kings are also amazing if you really like deluxe reverbs and like kind of the most powerful, like distilled version of a tone of like a deluxe reverb. That's a really good one. Had a 1930 Mitzi. So Mitzi had a 1932 OM28 that you let go. Good Lord. At the same time, I mean, like, that's one of the guitars that is just, unfortunately, just so valuable that you would feel stressed out to ever play it or take it anywhere. So I get that. All right. I'm just skimming through these to make sure I didn't miss anything. All right. So quick review. There is t-shirts are 20% off if you use the promo code Deck the Halls. DECKTHEHALLS. Deck the Halls, all caps. 20% off t-shirts. Also, coffee. There are 20 bags left, and that's it. That will be it for this year. We might be doing some in January, but if you get them, I ship them within 24 hours. Pretty much everything's gone 2 days. So I'm hoping like it should be able to get to you before Christmas and before it's 7 days old that it's been roasted. T-shirts, coffee. There's also the buyer's guide in the shop. If you go in the shop, you can buy my buyer's guide. This is a practical tool to help you buy and sell guitars, know values, make the right decision, find the right guitar for you. It is the most distilled wisdom that I have readily available for people. So go check that out. $25. Totally worth it. It will save you hundreds of guitars. It will save you hundreds of dollars on guitars along the way, and will help you figure out the exact right guitar for you. So thanks for watching this. This is super fun. So we're going to keep doing this every Friday, 2 o'clock, for about an hour and 10 minutes. We'll run through this. So it's been super fun. I'll see y'all later. I'm going to play some more guitar. Oh boy. All right, everybody. Super fun hanging out. I'll see you later. I thought it'd be dramatic and go like this. But anyway, super fun. Have a great weekend. Let me know if you have any questions, Go check out stuff in the shop. All right. See ya.